नमस्ते फ्रेंड, आप सभी का एक बार फिर से वेलकम। और फ्रेंड्स, बात करते हैं बैंकिंग अपडेट्स में। फॉर्मर आरबीआई गवर्नर रघुराम राजन हैज ब्लेम्ड यूपीए गवर्नमेंट फॉर हाई एनपीए इन बैंक्स। Raghuram Rajan has praised Modi government for improving the working structure of banks. He also said that the banks gave loans leniently during the UPA regime. Former RBI Governor Raghuram Rajan recently shared insight into the state of Indian banks before and after the global financial crisis of 2008. Rajan, who took charge of the RBI in 2013, explained how the crisis, along with the policy mistakes and the corruption during the UPA government, led to a sharp rise in bad loans, which eventually turned into non-performing assets. Before the 2008 crisis, Rajan said that banks were too lenient in distributing loans. Banks would approach businessmen with checkbooks asking how much money they needed, he recalled. This was because projects were typically completed on time and the banks would recover their loans. However, the situation changed drastically after the financial crisis and banks started facing difficulty in recovering loans. Rajan pointed out that the issues were just global. Corruption and the policy mistakes in India also contributed to the rise in the bad loans. He explained the delay in approvals for projects, including environmental clearances and the land availability, caused many projects to be delayed or abandoned. As a result, the loans provided by banks for these projects become stuck, turning into NPA. He also highlighted that the previous RBI governor had introduced a moratorium on bad loans, which temporarily stopped banks from classifying them as NPA. However, Rajan believed this only worsened the situation. When I took over, I ended the moratorium policy. He said, I felt that if NPAs were postponed further, the situation would only get worse. Rajan's team at the RBI began examining the accounts of banks, which revealed a significant amount of bad loans that had not been classified as NPA due to the moratorium. To address the NPA crisis, Rajan emphasized two key actions: identifying NPA and injecting more capital into banks. He credited the Finance Minister Arun Jaitley for his support in addressing the issue. When I told him about the need for more capital in banks, he said, "Do what is necessary." Rajan called this led to series of measures to clean up the bank's balance sheet, which Rajan believes were crucial in stabilizing the banking sector. Rajan's efforts to address the NPA crisis and his partnership with Jaitley were instrumental in the long-term health of India's financial system. रघु राजन जो फॉर्मर आरबीआई हैं, उनका जो कहना है कि दो बातों में बैंक एनपीए बढ़ा। एक तो एनपीए डिक्लेयर ना करना, मोरेटोरियम बढ़ा के उसको स्टैंडर्ड ट्रीट करना, जो कि वाकई एनपीए था, और इसी वजह से एनपीए बढ़ता गया और बैंक के बैड लोन्स का ह्यूज पहाड़ घटा होता गया। सो दे हैव टेकन द टू डिसीजन, एक तो एनपीए डिक्लेयर करना और मोर कैपिटल इन्फ्यूजन इनटू द बैंक्स टू सर्वाइव देम। आज पोजीशन अच्छी है कि बैंक के एनपीए घटे हैं, प्रॉफिटेबिलिटी बढ़ी है, यहां तक कि अभी रिसेंटली 26% का ग्रोथ पब्लिक सेक्टर बैंक्स ने अपने प्रॉफिटेबिलिटी में दिया, while private banks only 17%. Thank you, friends. Namaste.
Was that post global financial crisis, many of the projects that had been started in the euphoria before the financial crisis were in trouble, and of course we had problems in India over and above the global financial crisis, which was that there were corruption scandals. Therefore, permissions started getting delayed a lot. Projects weren't getting land, projects weren't getting the environmental permissions, etc., etc. So they were building NPAs in the financial system, which is actually typical after a period of exuberance, euphoria. One entrepreneur was telling me about bankers running after him with checkbooks saying, "How much do you want?" Because the projects had succeeded before the global financial crisis. So once the crisis hit, once the project started getting delayed, the RBI, in my predecessor's time, has implemented a sort of policy of allowing a moratorium on declaring loans to be non-performing. And of course, what happened was a lot of banks were now sort of sitting on big chunks of bad loans and not actually recognizing them.
Right.
The moratorium came to an end in my first year in 2014. And we said, look, just extending and pretending is going to create more problems down the line. Historically, it's always shown that. We need to clean up. And so we started the asset quality review, which is about looking into the books of every bank and ensuring that they actually treated the borrower the same way across the banking system. That itself was enough to reveal a whole lot of loans that were actually bad, that were being carried on the books as performing. Of course, we had allowed some leeway for this, but they'd taken more advantage than we. So a lot of bad loans came tumbling out. But it was necessary to do that because I could see credit from the public sector system to the economy was falling. And so we need to clean up. Otherwise, these banks are not going to be able to lend more. Their balance sheets are clogged with bad loans. They don't want to make any good loans. So the asset quality review started. It needed two hands. From our side to recognize the bad loans, from the government side to capitalize the banks. And so I went to Mr. Jaitley and I said, look, we're going to have these bad loans. They have to come out. Otherwise, they'll just keep the system from actually cleaning up and from lending, which is, you want the system to push ahead. He said, fine, go ahead. We went ahead, did it.